Have you ever had like a dilemma? Like a really tough choice between two options? I have. Let me tell you a little bit about it. In fact, I was in junior high, right? And I think it was like second or third period of the day. It was early on, right? And I was in this, it was like a free class, it was like study hall, where you can do homework, you can whatever, just do assignments. And so I found myself in there. Here, I'm gonna actually drop myself into a class here. There you go. Hey, buddy. So I'm there and I see my buddy across the way, and he is, he's gonna be a really good guy. He's gonna be the Christ-Centered Difference Makers logo. Look at that. What a fella. He's a real good guy. So he looked a little sad. Like he looked a little down, and I was like, hey dude, like, what's up? And he was like, man, I just got out of class and the teacher threw us a pop quiz and everybody failed. And I was like, no! A pop quiz is definitely not what you want to hear early in the day, but here's the deal. I had that class in like 3 periods later. And so I said, well, like, tell me more about that. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I can't just tell you all about it. I'm a good guy. And I was like, no, just like how am I supposed to do on this? Like, what am I supposed to answer? How do I do it? And he's like, oh. And he proceeds to tell me the answers to the test. And now I've got a dilemma. Like, I really want to do good on this test because everybody knows that it's going to be a doozy. Word's starting to spread that everyone's failing. So I've got this dilemma. I've got the answers, and I used them. I got to tell you, I used them. I went to class. My buddy was not there. Get rid of him. Get out of here. I went to class. There was probably some cute girl sitting beside me, wouldn't you bet? And I nailed this test, you guys. I like stinking nailed it. And I felt great about myself. I was like, what is up? I went home, fixed myself a big old cup of Pepsi Cola, and I felt wonderful until the next day. Because the next day, the teacher's handing our tests back to us. And everybody is getting their tests back. This little girl here, she got like an F, a very, very big F. F. And I did not get my paper back. And I'm looking around, everyone else did. I raised my hand like, teacher, I didn't get my test back. And she goes, oh, I know. I need to see you in the hallway. And I was like, oh dear, see you, boo. And I walked into the hallway and the teacher was like, listen, I know you cheated on the test. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you got a 98%. The average besides you was 50. You cheated, didn't you? And I was like, Adam, did you cheat? Yeah, I cheated. I got the answers ahead of time. I cheated. And she was like, yeah, I know. And that's why you're gonna fail. And I was like, oh, I probably deserve that, right? But I was pretty bummed. And I realized like I had that choice to make and I made the wrong one, right? I made the wrong choice. I should have chosen differently. And I kind of wish that I would have heard about this guy that we're gonna be talking about these next 4 weeks. I wish I would have heard some of his story because it might have changed the way that I chose in that moment. I think it could have helped. And here's the reality is I think if you would just like show up these next 4 weeks and listen to the story about this guy named Daniel, I think it could change your life. Like I genuinely do. I wanna start telling you his story this week. We're gonna start, the book that we're gonna look at from the Bible is called Daniel. So he's kind of the star, right? I can tell you that straight up front. And he's got an incredible story starting in Daniel chapter 1. I'm gonna go all the way through verse 21, and that's kind of a long chunk. So instead of me reading it to you, I am just going to use this. So let's get to it. This guy, he's the king. Can everyone see he's the king? Of course you can, because he's got a crown on. His name's Nebuchadnezzar, and he was the king of a place called Babylon. He decided one day he'd like more land. It's what kings do. So he marches his little potato tuchus, all the way to what used to be Israel. Now it's called Judah. Long story, they split up. So he marches over there. He's like, hey, I want your land and I'm gonna take it. So he took their land. So now if you lived in Judah, this place, if you're an Israelite, God's chosen people living in this place, you are now a resident of Babylon. It's like if California came over and were like, hey, we think we should have Arizona. Be a bummer. But listen, so Nebuchadnezzar takes over and he tells his buddy, who should we use here? He has his buddy, and you're not gonna believe this guy's name. His name is Ashpenaz. Here he is. Hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Ashpenaz. How do you spell that? Don't worry about it. Okay, Ashpenaz is like the chief official to the king. Ashpenaz is a pretty big deal. And the king's like, here's what I want you to do, Ashpenaz. I want you to find the very best and brightest from among all of these new Israelite, God's chosen people kind of guys. I want them to be connected to royalty. I want them to be from nobility. I want them to be smart, talented, capable. I want them to be awesome in every way. And Ashpenaz is like, you got it. Get out of here, king. So Ashpenaz goes on this quest. He's like, where am I gonna find these people? What have I done? Where am I gonna find these people? I don't know. I'm gonna look this way. I'm gonna look that way. Where could they be? Well, Ashpenaz is in luck because he finds some pretty great fellas, like this guy over here. Come here, you. Who are you? My name's Daniel. Awesome. Daniel's joining us, and these guys too. What are your names? Oh, we're Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are kind of the stars of this story, but they find a bunch of other guys too. We don't really know what to do. These are just other guys that they brought too, but these are literally the best and brightest of all the Jewish people. So they bring them over, and the king told Ashpenaz, here's what I want you to do. For 3 years, sort of like a college program, I want you to train these dudes up. I want them to know our language. I want them to know our customs. I want them to know our literature. I want them to know everything about what it is to be a great Babylon citizen. And here's the deal, Ashpenaz, I'll even give them food and drink from my own table. So Ashpenaz starts leading these guys. Here's the problem. The king's food and the king's drinks were not what Jewish dudes were supposed to be eating and drinking. So Daniel goes to Ashpenaz. Hey! Daniel goes to Ashpenaz and he says, listen, man, I can't be eating this stuff. I can't be doing it. It's not right. My God has said not to eat this. You've got to figure out a way for me not to do it. And Ashpenaz is like, look, dude, I like you, but you're gonna eat the food. Daniel's like, please, please, pretty please. And Ashpenaz is like, all right, I'll tell you what. Here's what we'll do. For 10 days, just 10 days, I'm gonna give you vegetables and water. Nothing from the king, just vegetables and water. And you and, how about your 3 buddies? How about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? You guys are going to eat vegetables and water. And all these other clowns, they're gonna get what the king wants. How's that sound? It sounds so good. So they make that deal. Ashpenaz is feeling pretty good because he's not gonna get killed by the king. And after 10 days, who do you think was healthier? Do you think it was these jokers? We are so healthy. Or do you think it was our friends Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Well, the book is named Daniel. It was obviously Daniel. So Ashpenaz makes a choice. He says, all right, everybody gets vegetables and water. How's that sound? I'm not too happy about it, but whatever. So that's what they did. And after 3 years, wouldn't you know, these guys they've trained up, they were the best and the brightest. They were the best representatives of Babylon, and they were all ready for the king's service. But you know who the very best was? Yeah, you guessed it. It was our boys over here. It was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It was our friend Daniel. Everyone say Daniel. Yeah, it was Daniel and his boys. They were the best and the brightest. I think we can actually start to learn a little something from our friends. Here's the deal. We all have something in common with these friends of ours. We are all going to be tested, right? At some point, we're gonna have a choice to make. We are gonna have to choose to do things God's way or any other way. Maybe even a way that seems more convenient or a way that seems easier to us, right? Like in my story from before, think about this. I had to make a choice. I had the answers to a test. What was I gonna do? What was I gonna do? Well, I mean, I wanted a good grade. I knew cheating was not the right way to get the grade though, didn't I? Sure I did. And you do too, because God asks us to be honest. But I chose to do something that I wanted to do instead of what God has asked me to do. I was kind of like these guys over here. I just took the easy way out. I was like, I just think that if I do it my way, then it's going to be better in the long run. I'm going to get a good grade. And these guys thought the same thing. But here's the deal, my way failed. Like literally, I failed the test. And so did these clowns. They failed their test too. They did not follow what God said to do regarding their diet, and they ended up in worse health than Daniel and his buddies. The thing that we have to remember is it's always better to do things God's way than trying to do things our way, even when it seems like it's tougher, even when it seems like it's less convenient or it doesn't make sense. It's always better to do it God's way. And Daniel and his friends, they found that out, didn't they? And can you imagine the pressure that they were under to just fit in, just to be like these little guys over here? Just shut up, just do what you're asked to do. Can you imagine even the pressure that this fella was putting him under, Ashpenaz? Ashpenaz is like, you guys, let me tell you how life really works. Life really works like this. You have to do what the king says, or you die. Well, that's kind of a big deal. They were getting pressured from all sides, but what did they choose to do? They said, man, I don't care what seems easy. I don't care what seems convenient. I want to do what God told us that we should do. And they chose to do something that was really tough, but it worked out better for them. Why? Because doing things God's way always will. Look, we are all going to be tested. All of us. And some of you know just what I'm talking about because you've already had to make these tough choices in your life, haven't you? You've already had to choose playing time. And you know that you have to make a certain grade to be eligible for playing time. And you know you could cheat to get that grade. So what you gonna do? Or you end up alone with that special someone. The one that makes your heart beat faster. The one that makes your little hormones just go all bananas. You're alone. Nobody's ever gonna know what happened, right? Or for you, it's just so much easier to lie to your parents because if you tell them the truth, they're just gonna get you in trouble, right? Or you find yourself at a party and you're the only one without that stuff in your cup. And you're starting to feel like the weirdo. And you're afraid you're gonna get made fun of, right? I've been there. When you have to choose, what will you choose? Look, I know for a fact we are all gonna mess up. I already told you, I messed up when I was in junior high. I still mess up to this day. We're all gonna mess up. But let me ask you this. I wanna talk to you if you're just a Christ-centered difference maker. You're someone who's serious about this. What if when you mess up, you used that as a way to learn? You used your mistakes as a way to teach yourself that doing things God's way is always the better way to do it. What if you did that? What if you were more like Daniel? What if you were more like Daniel and his friends who said, man, these other guys over here, they can do what they want, but we're gonna do the right thing all the time. Well, here's what I believe would happen. If just a few of us decided to live like these guys, here's what I think would happen. I think that people all over our city would start to take notice. I do. I mean, just think about this. 4 guys, 4 young dudes. In fact, let me just let you know, these guys, they weren't much younger or much older than you are right now, just a little bit older. 4 guys stood up and said, we're gonna do the right thing. We're gonna do what God wants to do, even when it's tough and even when it might cost us something. And it changed how the most important person in the king's court acted. He changed his whole leadership program just to fit in with what they knew to be true because they were right. Eating vegetables and water was better. They changed his program. Can you imagine the difference that you and some friends could make in a teacher's classroom? Can you imagine the difference you could make on a coach's field if you decided to live like that? People will notice. People will notice if you're living different, even though you're young, because the choices that you make to follow God will stand out. I promise you. Listen, this week, what are you gonna do different? What is something that you can do different this week that's gonna say, I'm gonna follow God's ways even when it's tough? Even though I'm young, even when it's inconvenient, it doesn't matter, no excuses, I'm gonna do it. What's it for you this week? Here's the truth. I want you to know the choices that these young dudes were making laid a foundation for the choices they were gonna make the rest of their lives. Because I got news for you. Spoiler alert, get back here the next 3 weeks because you thought this was a tough challenge for them? No. This was the easy part. You ain't seen nothing yet.